Welcome to the Obsidian Middle School Proficiency-Based Grading presentation. Our hope is that you can gain clarity around what proficiency-based grading is and how it will help create a personalized and articulate approach to identifying your son or daughter's strengths and weaknesses as a student. At Obsidian, we believe it's our responsibility to work together to create a strong, visible, transparent grading practice that provides parents, students, and teachers with a clear picture of student growth. As such, we have created a simple presentation to give clarity around proficiency-based grading. A proficiency-based grading system starts with an explicitly taught set of standards that will form the base of student learning for the course. Grades are directly linked to each standard and show growth over time as students move toward mastering the key concepts and skills in each course. I think it's important to start this presentation by taking a quick glance at an example proficiency-based gradebook. Here you can see we have a fictitious student for period 1. We have 2 categories in this gradebook, which is the first thing you'd want to identify, and that is category 1. You can see there's a category for classroom skills, and there's a second category for academic skills. So the first thing that proficiency-based grading does is it separates the classroom or behavioral skills from the academic skills, so we can report out separately so parents and kids and teachers can know exactly what their kids are struggling with and what areas they're excelling in. In the classroom skills, you can see the first standard. It's number 1, and it says, "I will work independently and stay on task during all classroom activities." To the right of the standard, you'll see the scores, an M, an NM, and an M. And those scores are representative of student work or opportunities in the class. And then next to that, there's a current level, and it says meets. In Obsidian's model, what we're using is the state's proficiency scoring guide, and that is exceeds, meets, nearly meets, doesn't meet, and then no progress in the class. And so here for every M, that represents a student who met the benchmark or met the opportunity for that standard. An NM would be nearly meets, an E would be exceeds, and a DM would be obviously doesn't meet. So if you see on skill number 1, the student had 3 opportunities at that standard, and the first opportunity they met, the second one they didn't, and the third one they did. And so the gradebook gives them a overall score for that particular standard. In classroom skills, if you look down under academic skills there, you can see skill number 2, I will read and demonstrate progress toward reading at an independent and instructional reading level appropriate to grade level. This is a state standard that teachers thought was extremely important. And so next to that standard, you can see the student's scores and opportunities, and then a current level for that standard. So you can see the theme here that as kids work on demonstrating proficiency in their standards, we keep scores for each of their opportunities, and they've given multiple opportunities. If you see on skill number 2, the student had 2 opportunities. If you see on skill number 3, student might have had more opportunities, depending on the complexity of the skill and standard, and depending on how many opportunities that student needed to show that they were proficient or that they needed to meet that standard. And so I think this is a good example of where we're going with our grading practices to clarify how students are doing academically versus how they're doing behaviorally in classes, to continue to encourage students to take ownership of their own learning, and for parents and teachers and community members to be able to have a conversation about how can we clarify this so that students are engaged in this process. If you look down at the bottom, there's an academic skills summary grade, and then also at the top for each category there's a grade. If you see at the top, the category classroom skills grade is that they met in each of those areas. So I think this is just a simple example of where grading is going at Obsidian, and this is what you might see from some of the teachers here as they begin to report out in a proficiency-based model. I wanted to thank you for taking the time to watch this short little video and take a last minute here to emphasize the importance of the fact that we're moving towards a reporting system, a different reporting system, because we believe that being more transparent about student progress over time eventually will help students to learn. And all the data that we've read shows that timely and accurate feedback is the #1 factor in influencing student achievement. And so in order to make that happen here at Obsidian, we've continued to develop this program. The last thing I wanted to emphasize as well is that as you looked at the example gradebook, there were multiple grades, multiple marks given in a class instead of just one simple overall grade. And in our next presentation, we'll take a little bit of time to look at and compare the differences between a traditional gradebook and grading system with a proficiency-based gradebook and grading system.